Go, Speed Racer! Tell me, cameraman, as a major otaku, you've got this in your lineup, don't ya? Don't ya? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're continuing our look into the Velocitron Speedia 500 collection. And right here we have quite possibly the hardest figure to find out of the original wave. This is the Cybertron Universe version of Override. Of course, Override was introduced in the Cybertron cartoon series and its respective toy line. Override is also female. For those of you who may not be aware of it, it is a female character. And it was decided to make her female by the folks at Cartoon Network, as they felt that the series needed a bit more female representation. So they decided to make Override female. There's at least one dub in a foreign nation, however, where it, for a while, was passing back and forth. Where it would be male, where Override would be male in one episode, but then be female in another. Fortunately, after a few episodes, they put the series on hiatus long enough to get it straightened out, and definitively went with female. But they gave no explanation as to why the change. Probably for the best. But at any rate, over a little bit of background on Override, she is the leader of Velocitron, as the leadership title is given to the one who wins the Velocitron Speedia 500. So she's naturally a very competitive racer, and a bit rather hot-headed at times as well. But after a meeting with Optimus Prime, she did learn how to become a more compassionate leader for her people. Though she still does have some of her hot-headed tendencies, she has matured as a character. So we have another rather fine and interesting figure for her. Originally, from what I've read on the Transformers Wikia, the original intent for Override here was that they were going to do a heavy retool of the Studio 86 Hot Rod figure. But instead, one of the designers at Takara was able to come up with a design that is relatively similar to her appearance from the Cybertron series. So that's a good thing, because I'm sure a lot of her fans would be up in arms if she was basically a retool of Hot Rod, despite a lot of the similarities between the two characters. Okay, let's start off by looking at Override's accessory, and she only has one accessory. This would be her engine/gun. She's got a double-barreled cannon here, and it does have little fins on the back as well. The gun barrels do fold inward, so that it can be used like an engine when she's in car mode. Rather neat looking little piece. One thing I will urge some caution with is that these fins on here, they are on very, very stiff. So please don't use excessive force when you're shifting them back and forth. underneath. It's not really necessary, and as you can see, since they are very thin plastic, they will stress wear and break relatively easily if you force it. So just be gentle, and it will shift over. Of course, the guns are a little stiff too, but they're a little bit smoother in their action at folding up. Now, with her accessories out of the way, let's take a look at Override's articulation. And for being a character in the Voyager class, she has about what you would expect. Her head can be turned from side to side, and it will look up and down just a little bit. Her arm can be raised out to the side, about so far, and it does rotate at the shoulder all the way around. As you can see, you can bend her arm at the elbow 90 degrees, and she does have a swivel at the bicep. So she does have G.I. Joe style battle grip, like modern Transformers do. You can twist her a bit at the hips. Unfortunately, some of the back kibble does get in the way of it, so you can't do it very far. You can spread her legs into a full splits. She does have a good thigh cut, but her knee pads kind of come up and get in the way for turning it inwards, because they will bump up against her hip shield. You can raise her leg at the hip 90 degrees, and you can bend her leg at the knee even greater than 90 degrees. And there is some slight articulation at her ankle. So all in all, she does have some relatively good articulation. Okay, now we're going to transform Override. And it's a relatively simple process for a Voyager figure, as it only has 19 steps involved. Alright. Her first step is that we've got to rotate her fists. So adjust the hands so that the thumbs are facing us. Then we're going to come up here to the side of her chest and we're going to pull out the shoulder pieces a bit. Get them to separate from the torso. There we go. Gotta get them out a fair bit because they're going to be shifted here in a second. Now, of course, once that's been done, we'll come here to the central piece, the cockpit. We're going to pop that free, and that gets folded up against her head. And then we're going to push it and her head all the way back against the back. Just like that. Now we're going to start folding her arms and shoulder pieces down on this internal gear. So get them to fold down like that. Then we're going to take her back piece and we're going to fold everything up and over. Well, maybe not just yet, but we got to get it so it looks something like that. Get it so it looks just like that. And then we gotta get the back portion. Hold on a second, I'll double check things. Okay, I was right. We gotta get her to fold up a bit. Like so. Because then we're gonna take her arms and we're gonna rotate them at the shoulder inward, so it should leave the hub out and bring the wheel to the outside. And then, of course, once we've got that done, her arms should connect together up top. We got to shift them a little bit because you can see right here above the fender, there's a little hole there. And that's where these posts here on the back portion should line up and connect to. So, do this cautiously. There we go, got them lined up. Everybody's lined up the way it should be. Keep her arms straight down her backside. And then now to continue the look, we got a twister at her hips all the way around. And then not necessarily at the hip. We twist the legs around at the thigh cut. We gotta twist them so that so that our feet face outwards like that. So we're gonna spread the legs a little bit here because we gotta do a fair bit of work. And these pieces on the inside need to pop out and fold forwards. And then we can fold inside her feet, like so. Then, of course, once that's done, we've got to shift her legs so they come in towards the back a bit. Something's not working right here. Hold on a second. And you can tell I've only had her for a short amount of time because we haven't really had much time to play with her. She's still relatively stiff. But we gotta get the interior of the leg to bend inwards. Then it will be able to fold up and brush up against her. So that's the challenge. Wait, there we go. And we just got to adjust this piece that we've set up in the front to connect together. It'll look kind of weird, but it's meant to, since it's got to get these wheels at her side to come down at the appropriate angle. Double check things real fast. Alright, once you know everything's lined up properly, the windscreen should just connect onto the front. And there you have it. Which becomes a Cybertronian racing vehicle. Although the way the Transformer Wikia writes the article, they say that they almost seem to imply that her alternate mode seems to bear a lot of resemblance to the Mach 5 featured heavily in Speed Racer. And of course, back here we got the open hole. And that's meant for her gun / engine to be mounted in. The instructions don't move the fins here on the engine, so we'll just lay them back down. But again, that's your choice, how you want it to look. But all in all, there it is in the complete form. Which doesn't roll too bad. Could be a little better. But all in all, it's still rather nice. So now we get to my thoughts. Again, I never had the original version of this toy, so I can't vouch for how it compares to that one. As for how this one isn't bad. It's once again nice to see some more female representation in the Transformer line, since in the 1980s line, while we had female characters in the cartoon, none of them ever made it into the toy stage. So, unfortunately, when it comes to representation via the toys, the Transformer line back in the day gets a big 0 on that, since we never had any that got made. Now that we're getting more female characters in there, the line's starting to balance out a little bit. And when we have an interesting character like Override, it certainly helps to better the representation. All in all, this toy isn't bad. It's a little difficult to transform, partially due to the fact that there hasn't been anything like her released, so that kind of gives it a little difficulty. But it's not too bad that it would be of a deterrent. So this is definitely one to seek out. At any rate, that's my review of the Velocitron version of Override. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please do remember that if you like the content that's featured here on this channel, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is Sparkster1701 saying I'll catch you all later.